So we're here with former World Cup skier and Olympic skier Bode Miller. Thank you, Bode, for talking to the Ski Club of Great Britain. It's been 2 years since you've retired. Do you miss ski racing at all?
No, I don't. I mean, I think there's maybe parts of it that are, it's exciting to ski on those courses when they're in perfect condition. But no, at this point, I love skiing still. I go out and ski quite a bit. And no, I'm happy to be done.
Do you follow the ski racing still? Do you still watch the guys on? Did you watch Kitzbühel this year at all?
I was actually skiing that day up in Jackson Hole, so I didn't watch the race, but I saw highlights afterwards. I catch some of it. I don't really watch many races because in the U.S. they're not on that often. So, but I do think that it's also natural after you did the sport like I do. You kind of it's not so interesting to watch for me. Even when I was doing it, it wasn't that interesting to
Because
watch.
you've been and done it and you've had the feeling, I
Yeah.
guess. And the guys now, they either do speed events or tech events, but you were kind of an all-rounder, and well, you were an all-rounder. How were you able to balance all the disciplines and the training?
Badly, I would say. I mean, I think it's not really. I mean, it is about balancing them, but there's always like a drawback to it. There's maybe some benefits too. You might pick up little things from the other side that help, but in general, it's just a time crunch. The whole season in Alpine World Cup is really tough anyway. You start in October and you have 40 races till March, but even if you do, that's really why, guys. It's not because the difficulty of the racing or the training. It's just the compression of the whole series. So if you're racing 4 events, you're really traveling Tuesday. You have official training runs Wednesday or Wednesday, Thursday, and then race Friday, Saturday, Sunday, sometimes Monday. If you do that week after week after week, it's just too much. I think it's really hard. So for me, I liked it, even though I knew it wasn't maybe what was the best for my results, but it was the way I liked doing it. So that was kind of, I didn't need to explain myself to anybody. It was kind of my choice, but I think it frustrated my coaches a lot that I wouldn't focus because they wanted me to win more races, and I think I understood where they were coming from, but for me it was the right thing.
And you got bomber skis now. Was that always a passion of yours? Was that always in your mind, even when you were racing, that you wanted to bring out your own style of ski into the public?
Yeah, I mean, I always was pretty innovative with skis. I mean, from bringing the shape skis around in the U.S. to changing the style of skis we used in racing quite a few times. And I felt like it was a shame that skis had become so commoditized and so cheap. Cheap is great. I love cheap skis if they're good, but they're not good. When you build them in China and you try to build them for as cheap as you can possibly do it for like 40 years in a row, with really no correction at all. It'd be like if you built a car as cheap as you could for 50 years in a row and everybody was doing the same thing, just absolutely as cheap as you could make it, because then your margins were as big as they could be. If nobody else is doing anything different, it doesn't really show up, but I know different because I raced on World Cup skis. All our skis are handmade, and it was pretty obvious to me that someone had to come in and build really good skis, and even if they were more expensive, at least you were offering something that had the ability to enhance the experience and make things more fun and safer. So that part of it was always kind of in the plan. How it happened, I was a little bit surprised. I would have thought I would have just done it on my own because I had people who I think were interested in funding it. But the company's really, it's a good company, really good people, and I'm happy to be able to accomplish that goal.
And do you have any advice for people that want to get into ski racing, like young skiers? What's your main advice for them?
Yeah, I mean, unfortunately, it's a lot about opportunity. There are the exceptions where somebody's just a gifted athlete or something happens, but in general, you need to have the opportunity to spend a lot of time on skis. When I was young, that was my big advantage. I was in New Hampshire and I skied all the time. I skied, almost every single day that the mountain was open. So, and having fun with it, that's big. I mean, you don't ever get good at skiing until you're older, period. Even if you're good when you're 14 or good when you're 15, it's still like that qualification for 15, you know, like nobody wins World Cups at 14, 15, and so you have to be patient enough to make it to 24 years old, you know, if you want to actually race at the very top. If you're just looking to race, I really love the sport just for that part of it, like for recreationally having some fun, adding something new to the sport, going and entering some local races and stuff. But taking it seriously is really tough. It's like as soon as you start pushing, it's like, and like most things, it's addictive. You know, because you start to figure things out and you get addicted to it, and you want to get better and better and better and better. But in the end, it's a tough sport. Injuries are really extreme. You know, the human body is not really designed for that kind of thing. So I love the recreational racing side of it. I don't think it's, you know, if you want to race professionally, you better make a very conscious choice about that, because there's a high likelihood you'll end up poor and injured at the end.
Oh, well, thank you, Bode, for talking to us. This was the Ski Club of Great Britain with Bode Miller. Thank you very much.
No problem.